Imagine this, a leader who was a quiet, almost shy mystic, but on the battlefield, an absolute military genius. He was never, ever defeated in battle. And yet, his story doesn't end in glory. It ends in betrayal. Today, we are diving deep into the incredible and tragic story of the unconquered Lakota leader, Crazy Horse.
All right, so here's how we're going to break down his incredible life. First, we'll look at the powerful vision that set him on his path. Then, we'll see how he rose to become a legendary shirt wearer. After that, we'll get into two of his most famous campaigns, the Rosebud and the Greasy Grass. Of course, we have to talk about his epic victory at the Little Bighorn, and finally, we'll look at his tragic final stand. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. How does a young boy, originally named Among the Trees, grow up to become the legendary Crazy Horse? Well, his story really kicks off with the world he was born into, and a shocking act of violence that would change his life forever.
This quote really gets to the heart of who he was. You know, around his own people, he was this quiet, private guy. Super generous, but shy. He wasn't one for big celebrations or being the center of attention. But put him on a battlefield, he became this completely different person, a fierce, magnetic leader. It's a fascinating contrast, isn't it?
So he's born around 1840, right into the heart of Lakota culture. But his childhood isn't peaceful for long. The key moment happens in 1854. This violent clash with U.S. troops completely changes the trajectory of his life. It pushes him to go on a vision quest, to figure out who he's meant to be.
And get this, he's only about 14 years old when this happens. It's this defining moment of just absolute betrayal. The whole thing started over a stray cow. Can you believe it? And it ends with his chief, Conquering Bear, getting shot in the back. Of course, the Lakota warriors fought back, but for young Crazy Horse, this lit a fire inside him, a deep, deep distrust that would stay with him for the rest of his life. It's what sent him searching for spiritual power.
And what he sees on this vision quest becomes his entire life's blueprint. See, in Lakota culture, a vision isn't just some dream. It's a sacred path, a set of instructions. He sees this warrior on a horse who's completely invincible. Bullets and arrows just fly right past him. But the key is why? It's not because he's wearing fancy armor. It's because he's humble. The vision tells him, as long as you stay simple, don't take credit, and fight for your people, you will be protected. And those symbols, the lightning bolt on his cheek, the hailstones on his body, that becomes his sacred identity, his war paint.
Okay, so he has this profound spiritual mission. Now, let's see how that vision translates into action on the battlefield. This is where the quiet kid transforms into a legendary war chief and earns one of the greatest honors the Lakota could give.
By the time he's in his mid-20s, everyone knows who he is. His bravery, his tactical mind, his commitment to his people, it's just off the charts. So in 1865, they make him a shirt wearer. Now, this wasn't just a pat on the back. It was a huge deal. It meant you weren't just a great warrior. You were a true protector, a leader responsible for the very survival of the nation.
And if you want proof of his tactical genius, look no further than the Fetterman fight in 1866. This was pure brilliance. He sets up this perfect ambush. And get this, he himself rides out as the decoy. He taunts Captain Fetterman's troops, drawing them out of the safety of their fort, leading them right over a ridge and straight into a trap. It was a devastatingly effective plan.
The result? 81 U.S. soldiers killed. The entire command wiped out. At the time, it was the U.S. Army's single worst defeat on the Great Plains. For the Lakota, this victory was massive, and it cemented Crazy Horse's reputation. He wasn't just a brave warrior. He was a master strategist, living out the power of his vision.
All right, fast forward about 10 years. The U.S. government completely breaks its own treaty because gold was discovered in the Black Hills, land that was sacred to the Lakota. This act of betrayal kicks off what's known as the Great Sioux War of 1876. And this time, Crazy Horse and his people are facing the full, organized might of the U.S. Army.
It's funny how one battle can have two totally different narratives, right? So on June 17th, Crazy Horse launches this incredible, ferocious attack on General George Crook's army column at the Rosebud. Now, if you read Crook's report, he claims victory. Why? Because his troops were still standing on the battlefield at the end of the day. But here's the reality. His force was so chewed up, so battered, that he had no choice but to turn around, retreat, and wait for reinforcements.
And this is why it was such a brilliant strategic win for Crazy Horse. You see, the army had this three-pronged plan. 3 columns were supposed to converge and trap the Lakota. By taking Crook's column out of the fight, Crazy Horse completely wrecked that plan.
It meant that when the next army column showed up, led by Custer, the Lakota and Cheyenne could face him with their full, undivided strength.
And that's exactly what happened just 1 week later, June 25, 1876, the Battle of the Little Bighorn, or as the Lakota have always called it, the Battle of the Greasy Grass.
So here comes Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. He has absolutely no idea that General Crook's force has been neutralized. He's riding high, full of confidence, and he decides to attack this huge village he sees along the river. What he doesn't realize is that he has made a catastrophic miscalculation about just how many warriors are waiting for him.
And right in the middle of all that chaos, there's Crazy Horse. People who were there said he was like his vision come to life. He led this critical charge that flanked the soldiers, basically breaking their lines and shattering their command. He was riding right through the thick of the fighting, with bullets flying everywhere and just never getting hit. He seemed completely untouchable. The final count, 268 U.S. casualties. In a fight that was over surprisingly quickly, Custer and his entire immediate command were wiped out. It was, without a doubt, the greatest victory for the Plains tribes in their long war with the United States.
But, and this is the tragic part, this incredible victory was also the beginning of the end. The U.S. government was humiliated, and they retaliated with overwhelming force. The Army came back with a vengeance, hunting the Lakota bands relentlessly through a long, hard winter, making it impossible for them to find food or shelter.
His people were starving. So Crazy Horse had to make a choice, the kind of impossible choice only a true leader has to make. He chose life for his people. It's so important to understand this. When he led his band to Fort Robinson, he wasn't surrendering as a defeated warrior. He was coming in as a chief, under a flag of truce, to negotiate peace and save his people from starvation.
But the fort was a tinderbox of jealousy and mistrust. Other chiefs, who had been living on the agency for years, were jealous of the respect Crazy Horse commanded. They started spreading rumors that he was going to bolt. Then came the final straw. A translator completely bungled something he said. They made it sound like he was threatening to go on the warpath again when he wasn't. For the Army, who was already paranoid, that was all the excuse they needed. So they came to arrest him. He refused to be thrown into a jail, a guardhouse. In the struggle that followed, he was mortally wounded. Now, the official story is messy. His own rival, a man named Little Bighorn, who was helping hold him down, claimed Crazy Horse somehow stabbed himself. But that's not what almost everyone else saw. There were 17 Lakota eyewitnesses, and their story was clear and consistent. A U.S. soldier ran him through with a bayonet.
He lingered for a few hours, but died late that night. His good friend, the chief Touch the Clouds, never left his side. And when he passed, Touch the Clouds put a hand on his chest and said something just so fitting for him. It is good, he has looked for death, and it has come. A perfect epitaph for a man who lived his life completely on his own terms.
Think about that. He was never defeated in a single battle. He was never captured. He was killed while under Army protection under a flag of truce. His legacy is one of absolute defiance and love for his people. And today, that legacy is literally being carved into the Black Hills he fought so hard to protect.
So his story leaves us with this heavy, lingering question. His entire life was this incredible testament to resistance. But the great paradox is that the unconquered warrior wasn't defeated on the battlefield. He was brought down by jealousy, fear, and betrayal in a place of supposed peace. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What is the real cost of defending your home, your culture, your way of life?